Welcome back. It is the Country Viewpoint here on Flow FM. It's the Market Day edition of the show, and it's time to head to our wool report to get things going today. And joining me on the line is Andrew Partridge, our regular guest in this time slot. Andrew, good to be with you again. How are you?
Very well, thanks, Ellis. Yourself?
Going all right, thank you. Andrew Partridge from Michelle Wool. Another week of stability as far as the markets go. Tell us exactly how this has come about. We're talking about the second week in which the market has recorded an overall rise, and we're talking about the fact as well that this results partly due to a withdrawn amount of bales too prior to the sale opening.
Yeah, spot on, Ellis, and you really summed up the whole report in that one word there, stability. We had a massive rise, obviously, last week. Wouldn't say it spooked the market, but certainly when we get indicators, individual microns, lifting 50-something cents a kilo, and transferring that price to overseas, it's generally met with a bit of, crickets at the end of the line. Why? Why has the market gone up? I booked some wool the previous week at a certain price, and this week I've got to pay more. Why? But, stability. So we had a market actually pretty much traded sideways. Yes, there was a bit of movements in between the different centres, but really an equaling out of price overall, and with an indicator, just went up the 8 cents this week to 13.10. In US terms, up 13 cents to 8.74. And as far as the volume goes, we've talked about how we've had those larger sales. Now they're back under 45. We only barely had a 40,000 bale sale this week, so it's starting to look a bit better for the seller. And the buyers are going to now have to think about, where the next derivative price may be because of the low offerings and the currency where it is.
So just tell us about which type of fleece attracted the most buyer attention, Andrew.
Yeah, so look at mainly the finer microns in that sort of what we call fine, super fine area, 18 microns and finer. There's a general bit of an upward movement in those sort of prices for the week. But really, when we look through the bread, when we talk bread and butter microns, majority of wool grown in South Australia, and it'd be in that 19 to sort of 21 micron area. Those indicators barely changed in Melbourne, single figures, 2 cents here, 5 cents there sort of thing. So a lot of stability there. A lot of variation in the offering. We're getting higher VMs out of some areas, out of the pastoral zones. And then, of course, in the higher rainfall areas, they're a better type of wool. They yield a bit more and there's less VM. So there's a bit of movement in between the microns. You've certainly got premiums and discounts are very much in the play at the moment with the types of wool that are coming forward. But generally speaking, in those middle microns where the bulk of the wool is grown in Australia, there wasn't a lot of movement in price.
And just talking about next week, Andrew, we're expecting that the overall offerings will rise. So just bring us up to speed on how that is all currently placed right now.
Yeah, so certainly got offerings against. You're in that sort of zone where they're okay in that sort of 40 to 50,000 bale market we're expecting next week. Bit of a shock to the currency, obviously, during the week with the rate going up. So the Aussie dollar sort of hit 67 cents there one part of the week, which obviously transfers to higher prices in US, which wasn't good. But, look, the way the market sort of finished in the auction rooms, not really as buoyant as it was the week before. It sort of seems like most people are reasonably happy where the price is, probably reasonably happy where their order books are sitting and not going to be charging into the market. Looking at our exporters who bought this week, we've got Techbull, obviously, they feature at the top of our buyers list day, week in, week out, and then very closely by TNU, who were the largest buyer of merino fleece in Australia last week. They're very big again this week. Between those two companies, they've bought nearly 30% of merino fleece in Australia. Think about it for a moment, two companies buying 30% of the merino fleece in Australia. It's a pretty big number, and we need those guys bidding, and obviously the underbidders are going to be chasing them up. So, you just got to be a bit careful sometimes how we watch companies dominating the market. If they cease to dominate, obviously prices could come back.
Andrew Partridge from Michelle Wool, we really appreciate your time. We'll speak to you again next week. All the best.